Hey everyone, welcome. Today I have Maverick here with me who just earned his entire bachelor's degree in 3 months. And I know half of you are thinking, there's no way this is possible. I'm out of here. Just hear us out. Maverick's going to share his story and we're going to talk about how he did this and hopefully help you get a degree faster if that's something that you're looking for. Maverick, thank you so much for being here today and being willing to share your story.
No problem. Happy to do it.
How are you feeling right now? Like you just finished a bachelor's degree in 3 months.
It's a weird feeling, mainly because 3 months ago I was sitting in the spot of the people that might be watching this video and thinking like, man, that's gonna be super cool whenever I'm done and did it in 3 months. Or I mean, my main goal was 6 months. So that was actually my goal was just do it in 6 months or less. Because with how the school that I chose is set up, is you just pay every 6 months. So I was like, okay, I only want to pay one time. And so my goal was 6 months or less. So yeah, it's a surreal feeling to be done and finished with my degree.
It's amazing. Obviously, congratulations.
Thank
It's
you.
life changing and it happens really fast. I'm sure talking about which school you chose, a lot of people watching are thinking, what school did you choose? Tell us a little about the school you chose and why you chose it.
Yeah, so I picked WGU, Western Governors University. And the main reason I did it is because from watching previous videos of yours and interviews, WGU sounded like the best fit for me, mainly because they are truly a self-paced, competency-based school, meaning you really can go as fast as you want. And if you get a class and you're able to quickly pass the final, you're done, and that's it. And so that was the main reason I chose WGU because that sounded, right up my alley where it's just, hey, learn what you need to learn, get through the class, and then you're done.
It is probably my favorite school for testing out of classes. And for those that are like, "Ah, I can't take exams, there are other ways to do this and other schools that do things differently. But they're amazing for testing out of classes. And we'll get more into this as we go. But Maverick, like you are 26 years old, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So you obviously didn't jump right into college. Tell us about why didn't you go to college originally and what made you change your mind later and want to come back and get the degree later?
Yeah, so as soon as I was done with high school, I served a 2-year mission trip for my church, which taught me more about life than any other, college route or whatever I could have chosen. So that's, one thing that I'll never regret. And so, but yeah, so after my 2-year mission trip, I get home, all my friends have, 2 years under their belt in school already. And and so I still wanted to potentially go to school, but I was only going to do it if I was playing football. And so, I return home from my mission and I start training to play football for a school out in Arizona. And I end up getting injured and decided to just hang up my cleats and start a family and start adulting, as they say. And so, yeah, I don't know. No one in my family really went to school. A lot of my family members are entrepreneurs, start their own business and don't need school to do it. So my thoughts were, okay, if I'm not playing football, then I don't need to go to school. And so throughout the years, there were a few businesses that I started. Some failed, some didn't. And and yeah, so I didn't really see myself needing school until I decided to get into the career that I'm going into currently.
So, what is that? Like, not having a degree wouldn't get you into the career that you're currently diving into. So that
Yeah.
sounds like that's what changed your mind. What's the plan? What's the career, and why did the degree make the difference for you?
Yeah. So my dad, ever since I was born, basically, he started a hearing aid business where you test people's hearing and then fit them with the proper hearing aids. And back when he started, he was actually grandfathered in where he didn't need school, so my dad didn't really go to college. He took what you call some college. So, he might have took like a semester or, maybe one course of something like a business course. But yeah, he started it way back when and was grandfathered in the program to where he didn't need a degree to become a hearing instrument specialist. And but then, times changed and requirements increased. And so now to become a hearing instrument specialist, you need to have at least an associate's degree. And then they require you to take a few more courses that are related to the hearing field, if your degree isn't in hearing sciences.
Okay, that makes sense. You went back for the full bachelor's. You're married, so you obviously talked about this with your wife, and you somewhere along the line made the decision, I'm going to go get this degree really fast. What
Yeah.
what led you to that decision to accelerate instead of being a traditional student? And what did your wife think and what did your family think about that?
Yeah. So I've always had kind of like a need for speed, just to do things. And I've never, I know, like, they always say time is money. And I mean, especially in this case, that was very accurate because, the previous business that I had was a cell phone repair business. And thankfully, it did really well. But I had started that business with some family members, and it got to the point where the business was kind of scaled as much as it could be scaled. And so there wasn't a ton of growth. And, as my family gets bigger with the kids we have, and my brother-in-law who I started that business with as he gets married and starts to have kids, the business itself probably wouldn't really be able to support both of us comfortably. And so a decision had to be made like, okay, what's the future of this business? And so we decided to exit the business, and I made sure to have a plan before we did that. But yeah, I talked to my wife and said, hey, my dad's wanting to retire in the next 5 years or so. It's a business that's been around, for 3 decades. And so it was a wonderful opportunity. We're super grateful for it. But, it wasn't just a shoe in, right? There was work that needed to be done, degrees that needed to be completed. And so once we decided this is what we were going to do, my mind immediately went to, okay, there's got to be a faster way for me to get my degree. Otherwise, I'm going to be going, 2+ years from, I'll exit my business and have 2 years basically of not making money. And as a husband and a father of three wonderful kids that grow and eat a lot of food, that was a scary thing. And so I just, yeah, it's just cool because, um, I've got a good relationship with God, and so I would pray and ask, for a way to be able to get this done faster. And that's whenever I found some really cool videos of yours on YouTube, and I became obsessed. It's like once I find quote unquote a hack or a way to do things better and faster, I just get obsessed about it. And maybe that's just like the entrepreneur in me. But yeah, I became obsessed and I started studying everything I could, for free about your program. And then I got to the point where I'm like, okay, let's really get into it. And that's when I decided to purchase your program and, jumped right into it. Um, and I followed that pretty exact. It's a 4 week course, and I took probably exactly about 3 to 4 weeks to get through all those videos because I was still working at the time. And so just any downtime I had, I would start watching or listening to the videos on, how to hack my degree. And yeah, as soon as I was done, I would have finished end of December, and my first term started in January.
So first term starts in January, and 3 months later, you're done. Do,
Yeah.
do your family and friends believe you? I don't know.
Yeah, no, so that was a thing. So yeah, going back to what you're saying about what did my wife think and family think, my wife, she always believed in me, but she would say like, I just don't believe in the system. She's like, I just don't think a school would let you just do that. And because I mean, she wasn't even doubting the hacking course that you have. She wasn't even doubting that. She was just like, I don't think there's a way the school would let you do that. And I was like, okay, well, what's funny is I would like show her the videos of your previous interviews with people. I'm like, well, what about this dude? It's like he did it in, 4 months, or this girl, she did it in 3 months. And she's like, I don't know. She's like, I'll believe it when I see it. And same with my family. They were like, hey, if you can do that, that's really cool, but we won't believe it until you're done. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It feels impossible because we've been told our whole lives a bachelor's degree takes 4 years. An associate's degree, which you were going to get, takes 2 years. You ended up with
Mhm.
an actual higher degree almost 2 full years faster. Um,
Yeah.
schools don't tell you this, but bachelor's degrees on average take 5 to 6 years. Associate's degrees on average take 3 years. Schools, sometimes we forget about this. Universities are businesses. They're not out of the kindness of their hearts just teaching us so that we can have a good life. Their education system is their product. And luckily, there are schools that have these self-paced programs with no limitations. And instead of saying you have to go through our system, they instead say you have to learn the material and prove to us that you've learned it. Well, people all the time, I'll get comments saying, like, you can't learn all that stuff in 4 years or 4 years worth of material in less than a year. That's impossible. I don't think people realize how much fluff there is in college. There's teachers' lectures are packed with their opinions and stuff that's not even in the curriculum. Homework assignments, we have to wait for them to be graded. And you don't need homework assignments to learn in the first place. Like when you need to learn something, do you go to the library and check out a textbook? No, you pull out your phone and you hit the internet and you learn. So there is a different way to do this, but you still have to learn. Can I just ask you, like, do you feel like you walked away not learning what you needed to learn? Or did you have to cram and was it hard? And did you actually have to do this legitimately to get the degree?
So I would be very confident if you stuck me next to someone who went the traditional route and got a bachelor degree in business. Because that was my degree. It was the bachelor degree in business administration, comma management, which now WGU doesn't offer that. It's just business management, which I've heard is actually a simpler route according to the teacher mentor that I had. So now it's even easier, supposedly. But yeah, so if you stuck me next to someone who had the same degree as me, but took 4 years to do it, I would be willing to bet that I would probably be able to answer more questions than them, especially because all the knowledge was fresh on my mind. Because I took all of my courses in 3 months, whereas someone who took, let's say like supply chain management, if they took that in year two and then graduated in year four, it's like, well, they're not going to remember anything from their supply chain management from year two. So I was like, not only did I learn everything, but it was all so fresh on my mind that that's why I felt like even when I did my capstone project, which is like the final project to be able to get your degree, I mean, it took me less than probably 2 hours to write, a 15-page paper about business and starting a business and all that stuff because everything I had just learned was so fresh on my mind.
Absolutely. Something else I love? You have more control over, obviously, there's the curriculum you have to learn to pass the exams. But beyond that, you have control over what's important to you and what's not. Like there are certain subjects, like I love marketing and advertising. So when I hit those types of classes, I'm like, you know what? I actually want to learn deeper than I have to pass the exam. And then there's stuff where it's like, okay, this is fluff and I'm not interested at all. So if I don't need to learn that, if I don't want to listen to this teacher's tangent about their opinion, I don't have to learn that. And you have control over what's important to you, which is really cool. For those listening, like I teach this process, I call it degree hacking. And I'll leave some information in the description if you want to learn more. But this process is very different than the traditional lectures, essays, homework assignments, reading from textbooks, group projects, lesson plans, study guides, all of those things. What we do is very different. It's pretty simple. It's figure out what you need to learn it, and prove that you know it. Maverick, you went to high school. You didn't go to college until you accelerated, but you went to high school, so you do have K through 12 of the traditional system. Can you kind of compare the two structures or methods of learning and talk about how you feel about each one?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, online school is not going to be for everyone. However, with even just the technology and resources we have, I feel like anyone could be successful in it if they wanted to be. Traditional learning, when I was going through high school and whatnot, I did the bare minimum to be able to get, decent grades and mainly for sports. Um, and so I didn't really care what I was learning because I knew honestly I'd learned everything I needed to learn by the time I was in, I don't know, fifth, sixth grade or something like that. So I personally felt like all of the grades after that were fluff. Here's what was crazy, and I'm not, bashing on anyone, but and it could have just been my lack of care, but I didn't do the best at math when I was in high school. But the math classes that I had to be able to pass my degree were the easiest classes out of every single course. So it's like the three math courses, or maybe there were four, but I those were classes that I would start and finish in probably 2 to 3 hours. And it's like they were the ones I got done with the fastest. They were the ones I felt the most confident about. And in high school, I would have told you math was my worst subject. And so I just think the resources we have now allow you to take more of a creative, approach on how you learn things. And so like for me, I wouldn't, there weren't too many times where I dove too deep into textbooks provided from WGU. They were great. The times I did, the information was perfect because that's obviously what they test you on. But like, for example, to learn about, quantitative analysis or applied probabilities and stats, it's like those were things that I would just watch YouTube videos on, and I would find a video that made sense to me, and then I would, sometimes pair that with maybe something that they teach in the textbook just to make sure that I'm learning it correctly. And yeah, and it was just crazy because those, like I said, those math classes were my easiest classes.
I'm sure people who are watching are like, yeah, right, like math being easy, there's no way. Going back to your like learning information more condensed where you're learning more quickly, it does make a big difference. Like growing up, it's like we spend 12 years spreading math out and we have a different teacher teaching us every year. Like if you hit 1 year where that teacher is not good or you don't sync up with them or you don't understand their teaching style, you're like behind for the following year and you can just it kind of snowballs. But when you have control over how you learn and you know exactly what you need to learn, you can go, like you said, hit YouTube and try 3 or 4 different teachers until you find one that actually makes sense to you and then just learn it all from that specific person. It makes a big difference. Like everyone learns different. If you rather read, there are really solid resources across the internet where you can read. If you'd rather watch videos, you can watch videos. But you have, like, when we take control of how we learn, all of a sudden things change because, like, all of our brains are wired a little bit differently. And being forced into like a learning model or learning from a person that like we don't connect with, it's really challenging. And that's something that I enjoyed a lot going through this process myself is, oh, like I can do it my way. And that made a big difference. Maverick, do you have any thoughts? Like people are watching this video thinking, like, you've got to be this super smart guy. Like there's no way I could do this. I get people like that a lot. Any thoughts for people that are maybe having thoughts like that?
Yeah, so I mean just to share with people, how quote unquote intelligent I am. I I mean I took the ACT in high school and after high school one time. But yeah, I took it twice in high school and then took it once after high school. And the best score I got on my ACT was an 18. And so I mean, I would definitely not say that I am a genius by any means. I was a very, just basic student. I got good grades, but I also took the easiest classes in high school possible. And I was really good friends with teachers, which, they would help me out and make sure that I would get the grade I wanted to get. And so, yeah, I would not say that I was a nerd or a super smart kid at all. Um, and so, yeah, I don't know. I think the funnest part about all of this is just knowing that at the end of the day, you really can learn the way that helps you learn the best and stick with it. And that's what I did. I went through the degree hacking course, learned everything I needed to learn to be able to knock this degree out as fast as possible. And one thing that I remember from that course specifically, what you said is, you're going to find a way pretty quickly that works for you and then just stick to that. And so every single course I had with WGU, probably about two-thirds of my classes were multiple choice exams to be able to, complete the final. And then one third was written assignments. And I remember emailing you 3 months ago saying, like, hey, I've got my first written assignment class coming up. Like, any tips on what I should do? And you were just like, well, just tackle it the same way you do your multiple choice ones. And that's kind of what I did. And yeah, I found a way that worked really good for me. And so I would say definitely be patient the first probably, I don't know, 1 to 3 weeks. Be patient on, with yourself because you're figuring out what helps you learn the best. Um, and so be patient during those first few weeks and then just know that you'll be able to find the way that works for you. And then after that, the sky's the limit. I remember there's one week, and this isn't to brag or boast or anything, but it was just how my courses lined up. But it was like I had all my math courses and then I had a few written assignments. And so I did all the work for the written assignments. And, it takes about 3 days for those to be graded. And then I just started taking the multiple choice exam classes. And I remember there was one week where I ended up completing 6 classes just because I was just on a roll and was figuring out what worked best. And yeah, I would not say I'm a genius. I would say I have a decent memory. With a lot of the multiple choice exam questions or classes, it would be helpful to, have a good memory, but there's tips and tricks on how to do that as well. And so, yeah, that was just what I did. I just found a method that worked for me and used it until I completed my degree.
That 6 classes in a week, that's okay. For those listening, a traditional college semester is 3, 4, 5 classes in a 4 month span. This is insane. Now, caveat, like it's not easy. This is hard and you have to work really hard and you have to dedicate yourself. And it's one of those situations where you like cross the finish line and you're like, oh man, like I am tired. I talked to Maverick about this a little while ago, but then you kind of almost have this like blank anxiety, like I'm supposed to be doing something right now, but I have free time. Like I don't know what to do. It is hard work. 3 months is not the norm, but it's not uncommon. 6 to 12 months, I have students go do this all the time. It's, are you willing to work really hard? And are you capable of learning? Like if you need to learn something, you can go to YouTube and learn something and figure it out. Like it takes that kind of mind. If you can figure something out and learn it, then you can probably do this. It's not rocket science. I don't know, there's this assumption that this is going to be so much harder than doing a 4 year degree. It's the opposite. It's so much easier than doing a 4 year degree. Maverick, I'm sure you've told family and friends. What are their thoughts? Are they just super pumped for you? Are they still skeptical? What are family and friends saying?
They're excited for sure. Granted, I have a few friends that are just like, dude, there's no way. Because these are friends that took 4 years to get their degree. And so you almost have to be careful, not to really rub it in people's face. So really the only people that know that it took me 3 months would be family and close friends. I'm not out there blasting about it just because I don't ever want to hurt anyone's feelings. But yeah, it is a surreal feeling and they're pumped for me. And, my dad's really pumped because he was expecting it to take me at least 2 years to finish with school and then do the whole, you know, hearing instrument specialist courses and exams and all that stuff. Yeah, this is a real feeling. And yeah, I promise you, I literally was in your seat. I mean, gosh, literally, it was 3 months ago. Even at the beginning, I would still watch the interview videos, just to kind of pump myself up and be like, okay, this is possible. I can do this. But I, it was hard not to be skeptical about it until, you know, first 2 days I had passed my first course, and I was just like, holy cow, okay, this obviously can happen. And yeah, it's almost like you got to get your first few courses under your belt, and then that's when you can be confident in yourself and really in this program too. Like, hey, this works. I've already completed an entire term in X amount of time. And then from there, yeah, sky's the limit.
That's when it clicks for most people that work with me. Most people are skeptical. Like I'll teach them how to do this, and then they still are skeptical, and they're still like, "Is this? Can I actually do this?" And then they finish the first class really quick, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, it worked!" And then your anxiety kind of starts dripping away because you're like, "Okay, like if it took me a week to do my first class, what if I just did one every week? Well, that's 9 months for a bachelor's degree." And then they'll do two classes in a week and think, well, what if I did two every week? That's 4.5 months for a degree. And it just kind of starts, the time starts melting off as you start going. And I'm sure you started to project graduation dates as you progressed forward, but that is how it seems to go. Now, I do want you to share, Maverick. You told me before we started the interview, you applied these degree hacking tactics for your big hearing aid exam that's required. And the exam normally takes what, six months, something like that. Just kind of give us the news there.
Yeah, so that was that was really funny. Yeah, since my degree wasn't in hearing sciences, they require you to do an additional course, to be able to get your temporary license. So like most people, if they went through and got their associate's degree in hearing sciences, they'd be able to go ahead and apply for their temporary license. But since my degree was just in business, had nothing to do with hearing instrument science, I had to go ahead and take an additional course just to be able to get my temporary. And so that course usually takes, from what they said, about 3 to 6 months on average, sometimes more. And but what made me really excited is when I was reading, more about the course, I noticed that it was self-paced and essentially competency based, which is just like how WGU is laid out. And so when I saw that, I told my parents, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to be done with this course in less than a week." And they were just like, "Yeah, okay." They're like, "This is a little different than what you just did." And I was just like, "Okay." And so I finished it in 2 days, and it was another surreal feeling. I was telling my mom today, I was like, it almost doesn't feel like an accomplishment because I got it done so fast. And it's not, like I said, it's not that I'm a genius. I just, I know what works for me and how I learn, and got a lot of practice with taking tests and finals, that were proctored. And so, yeah, when I was taking this final exam that was proctored, I was like, okay, I just did this 40 times. And so it was just like a regular course that I took at WGU.
It's incredible. It's not just colleges and universities. If we just apply modern learning techniques and tactics to this type of formal education structure, it's you go so much faster and you have control. If you take the control into your own hands, it's amazing. I teach students how to do this all the time. I have a program called Degree Hacking Academy. If you'd like to learn more, I'm going to leave a link where you can learn more down in the video description. If you're on your phone, just tap the video title with your thumb and it pops open the description, and I'll leave a link there. But Maverick, thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope those watching are inspired. Any closing words before we let you get back to your day, Maverick?
I would just say, don't listen to the naysayers, and just know that it's definitely possible. And I mean, I tell people now, I'm like, if a guy like me was able to do it, then I truly believe anyone that cared enough and was motivated enough, anyone could really do this. And it just comes down to quickly figuring out how you learn best and sticking with that plan. Don't try to veer or change anything because, I made that mistake with one class, and that class did end up taking me, probably about 2 weeks or so. And it was my very last class, so I don't know why I kind of veered from what I did best, but it was almost like, oh, this is my last class, the pressure's on type thing. But it honestly, it's just one of those things where, hey, you know what works for you, so just stick to it and, stay the course the whole time.
Well, Maverick, I already have my degree and I feel so inspired right now that I need to go get another one. Um, so you definitely got me pumped up. I hope those watching feel the same. Like the video, give Maverick a like, subscribe to the channel if you want more college acceleration stuff in your life. And thank you so much, Maverick. We appreciate you. And above all, congratulations and just excited for you to reap the rewards of the degree.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an exciting time for sure.
Have a wonderful day, everyone, and talk to you in the next video.